Hi, Kim. Do you want to introduce yourself to our audience today?
Yeah, for sure. Hi, everyone. I am Kim Saira. I'm an Asian American artist and influencer. My pronouns are she, her, hers, they, them. I am joining you all from Los Angeles, California, the unoccupied and unceded homeland of the Tongva people. I am a mixed race woman with blonde hair and almond eyes and medium brown skin, and I am streaming with a white wall and a TV right behind me. How about you, Beth?
Uh, I'm Beth Chin. I'm coming from Chicago, Illinois. I'm a designer here. I'm joining from the native land of Kickapoo. I'm a mixed race woman. I have dark brown hair up in a bun, and I also have my eyebrows shaved into a little slit, which I'm very proud of. I'm streaming with a white wall in my background. All right. So, how are you doing today, Kim?
I'm doing well. It's like Saturday morning and I'm loving it. How are you? How are you
Oh,
doing?
I'm doing great as well. It's a sunny day out here in Chicago, so you can't complain with that.
Nice.
Absolutely. So I was taking a look at your influencer profile, which is like fantastic, absolutely fantastic. In love with your aesthetic. I love your constant promotion of social advocacy, and then how you actually use your graphic design to bring a positive element into there. Do you want to talk a little bit about like your style and your design when you're creating your artwork?
Yeah, for sure. So all my infographics come with meaning and just education on topics I feel like we should all be aware of. Whether it's advocating for like Asian issues, LGBTQ, or just with, even things just like that don't necessarily affect me, but they affect the communities I'm in or other people. I feel like we should all advocate for that because activism is intersectional. So yeah, that's just a little bit about my art, what I do.
Absolutely. And what inspires you to keep writing and keep fighting and keep doing every single day, doing social advocacy, doing justice? And because I notice you cover like a whole range of topics. It's not even just AAPI discrimination or anything like that. So I was just curious how you go about like choosing every day what you want to talk about.
Yeah, for sure. I think that like to uplift people is to uplift all people. So even communities that I'm not necessarily a part of, it is still my job as just like a human being to be aware of these issues and just be aware of the issues that other people face. And I think with a platform, it's just appropriate to use that platform for good. Like, I think anyone who has some sort of a platform should be using that for good, for the good of like humanity. So I think that concept is something that just always keeps me going.
Absolutely. Is there any certain causes that are a bit more dear to your heart than others? Keep playing favorites a little bit.
I mean, right now, I talk a lot about mental health. So just like my experience with mental health, I think just advocating for it, and I think my experience with coming out as queer. I think those two topics are things I'm very much focused on right now, just because I'm experiencing it, and I feel like since I'm experiencing it, I can probably talk about it and share my experiences with other people.
Nice. And then, so I feel like part of what goes into building an influence page is that whole design aspect. You can have a lot of content, but if you don't know how to put it together and do the graphics elements behind it, it can lose a lot of value because that kind of just adds a whole visual aspect to it. So I was curious if you had any maybe advice for anyone watching today about maybe the difference between how you approach your artworks. I also noticed that you have a huge like curation of Black artists in your one of your highlight reels, which I'm also obsessed about. And so like I noticed that you have like this whole range of being an artist, and then you have your graphic design, and then you also have your social media design. And so I'm kind of curious about like maybe how you approach certain topics. At least like I know like as a graphic designer myself, there is that fine line between trying to figure out what makes good trendy social media design and know to show that you're following the trends and what's current versus like also breaking out of that current trend and going into a more unique route, which makes it authentically you. And so I was curious if maybe you had some words to share.
Yeah, for sure. And thank you for sharing that, Beth, because those are things I definitely think about. But I feel like, yeah, it's very interesting mixing social justice with artistry, especially on social media. So for me, I follow a lot of just graphic designers just separately from social justice. And if I like their work, I'll just, you know, almost like when you're in art school and you're just like studying other people's work and studying how they're doing it. And I'm just like, wow, that's really captivating. How can I take this like the way that they're framing this design and use it for, you know, like infographics or information. And so in terms of like the artistry, I will literally look at other artists. I'm like, wait, I really love that. How can I make it my own in a such like in a unique way and still use like the information I'm learning separately, like the social justice stuff, and you know, kind of like put it on there. And in terms of the social justice topics, if I'm going through something, it's a lot easier for me to cultivate the research on it. But if it's a topic that has to do with other communities or other people, I will talk to other communities, talk to organizations, talk to those people, or B, if like I can't, you know, if it's like if I can do the research myself, I will do the research myself so that it's like super accurate to what the experience is, and then I'll write it all down on a Google Doc. So at like for slide 1 is going to say this, slide 2 is going to say this, and then I will somehow take that and put it on the design. And sometimes what I do is also go to these communities and actually send it to them and like fact check, like, is this correct? Is this accurate? Is my language inclusive? You know, and then if it's not, I'll learn from it. You know, I feel like as human beings, like we should be learning like this. And if it looks good, I'll just post it. In terms of like social media design, I think a lot of people, if they see one specific type of design over and over and over again, they can associate that type of design with a specific artist. And I feel like that was me for such a long time because I did mine in such a specific way for quite a while. But then I got really bored of it. I felt like I just wasn't.
I was going to ask you about that.
Yeah, I got really bored. I was just like, man, like I feel like I'm not expanding as a designer at all. So then now I'm like kind of risking it and like playing with my designs.
Do it.
But, like
what's out of the rules, man?
You have to like change up the rules, but I feel like at the same time, like if you're here to follow me for information, the information doesn't change. This is just the design, you know. Yeah. So it's all the same.
I'm curious, are there any sort of design directions you're kind of looking at, what's trending lately that you're getting inspired by?
Yeah, I don't know what the name is. I don't know what it's called, but I know that a lot of people do like just like the very rough, like grainy look. And I really love that. And
like adding that texture element, like a piece of paper. Yeah, like going back to traditional graphic design style.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, no, I love that. It's really, and it's almost like 90s grunge in a way. I like love that look.
And it's surprisingly hard to do because you need to find like a good raw file that can like stretch as you need to. It can't just be like screenshot, you know, copy and paste it in there. Like it has to be a good raw file. Like, dude, I'm super excited to see what's coming next on your page. And also, so like kind of transitioning into a different area that I want to talk about. So I was just like stalking you on Instagram, basically that's how I'm trying to formulate this. And so I noticed that you like built an entire community and you have like this whole subscription set up for people to be like in your community. And so there's a couple things I want to ask about that. So first I want to ask about how did you come to this idea to build this like online community? And then does your mixed identity contribute to you creating this community at all?
Yeah, for sure. So my online little community, yeah, I actually honestly built all of that this year and it was very accidental. I was actually looking for a 9-to-5 job. I just got laid off. So there was absolutely no sense. Yeah, it was like coming into the space was so accidental for me. I think I just made a graphic that accumulated a lot of like following all of a sudden, literally like in a day. And it was very overwhelming.
Which one was it?
I think it was like during the massacre, unfortunately. So it was really just like a mix of all these emotions. And I remember like off tangent, but when I made that graphic, a lot of people were just following me because I happen to be Asian as well.
That's
and
rewarding.
really annoying for me at first because I was just like, man, like I'm literally on my like Instagram stories, like crying, trying to relate to other people. Like, you know, you're going through this as an Asian, so am I. But then gaining this following and being like, what am I going to do now? Like, there are people who are following me, and why? Like, why? It made no sense to me. It cultivated a lot of just like anger and frustration at first, but then afterwards I was like, well, there are people who really like are viewing my content. I need to make sure I use this platform for good. I need to make sure that people are learning with me. And I think that's what made me cultivate the online community and just being like myself and real, like, you know, this is who I am. I'm not like a person who has to curate an image. I'm not like that. This is what I do at my house. These are what I'm feeling. And I feel like I put a lot of that on my stories. And I feel like I put a lot of that in my posts because something that really bothered me about like the influencer space is how like overly curated it is. And
absolutely.
How, right? And like you share if the person you're following is like the person they are in real life. And I actually hate that.
Did you say that maybe one more time? It at least broke up on my end a little bit. Yeah.
Oh my God, yeah, for sure. I was just gonna say I really dislike the fact that some people, you know, they're so overly curated, and I'm not sure if who they are there is who they are like in real life, you know, because social media is social media at the end of the day. So for me, it's about like how I can show up in my most authentic way, and I think that people caught on to that. Just being but yeah, and I totally forgot the second question. I'm so sorry.
So the second part of that question was, so do you think your mixed identity or maybe your queer identity contribute to you creating and building a community for yourself?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah, for sure. And I'm very honestly so grateful, so blessed to have just like people who support me and people who support my journey because there's not really anything I'm changing personality wise to like fit on the gram. I'm just being myself. And I think that um, it's about me like sharing my experiences as, you know, an Asian American immigrant or now sharing my experiences as someone who has been coming out privately and now feels comfortable sharing it on social media. And I think like that, no, for sure, that it has just like really, I feel really supported by people.
Yeah. I'm curious. So, like, you're following. What would you say is maybe like some of the comments that you get most from your followers, like when they come back, like and when they circle back to you? Like, what's some of the things that they appreciate most out of the community too that you've kind of brought them that maybe in return you've received?
Yeah, I get really touched a lot by comments that people send me or messages of just like, you know, I never found anyone that I could really relate to on social media. And then I found your content and you're so just like authentic and raw. And it's something that I can't find that with other people. And like, you talk about things on your stories that I'm going through that I didn't even know how to articulate and even though there are no solutions to what I'm going through, sometimes I'll be like, man, I feel really bad today and I don't know why. I think it's because I went to therapy and XYZ happened, but like they'll be like, wait, you know what? Like those are feelings that I have as well. And you just saying that on your stories and coming out like that makes me feel less alone. And I really like, I just like,
It's like melting. That's so adorable. That's so adorable. Oh my goodness. You're very lucky to have that.
oh my gosh, no, thank you. Yeah, I'm very blessed, honestly. I'm very
Oh,
grateful.
that's amazing. Wait, so I also had a follow-up question with that. And so can you give us any details of goes on in your bestie chat versus your close bestie chat?
The funny thing, honestly, like for my close friends list, for Instagram, I don't really post a lot on there, but I do post a lot about like my spirituality and like things that just have been grounding me. Because I'm very like I do a lot of just spiritual practices in my own time, and I'm not sure how that fits into my overall like message sometimes. So I try not to like mix the two up because I don't want to get people like, oh, you're now this and now that. So
Yeah, there is that kind of like spontaneous judgments, like, oh, when you get a little bit spiritual, it's like, oh, it's just like a bunch of hippie bullshit.
yeah,
Like,
yeah, exactly. So I try to like not have that included.
oh,
But yeah.
that's not fair. I think I get over it. Sorry.
It's all good.
Oh man. Oh, but like, wait. Okay, so Also, let me transition a little bit because I do want to bring it back into like more of like your artistic and design aspects because I know that's like what we were talking about today. So,
No, for sure.
and so I was curious on maybe how would you tell our audience like maybe how to engage their audiences through social media a bit better, and would you maybe have any tips for that?
Yeah, for sure. So the way that I started was through art communities. So like digital art, I think like Ladies Who Design is a really good one. That's the one I know, and that's the one I was a part of for a little bit. And what they do is just repost your work on their page, which gives it a lot more visibility. And I think also creating a community of artists around you on social media, even if you don't personally know them, just saying like, I really like your artwork, I really like your artwork, do you want to be in like a group chat together? Because I also have that group chat going on for me right now, and I've had it for over a year of just like diverse artists, and it's just made me feel very supported. We're all social justice artists, so it's made me feel very supported in the art space. So I think those two tips, just follow art communities, and also um creating your own little group chat with other artists that you do like.
Yeah. Also, so I'm curious because I know there. So we've kind of covered like the visual aspect and the content creating. Is there anything else like special that you like to use, like say specific tags or hashtags? Do you still use hashtags even? I'm not sure if they're still like that relevant or have we
Oh,
moved beyond hashtags?
yeah, I actually sometimes use them. Like I only use like to hashtag Kim Saira to check if I'm shadow banned because I get shadow banned a lot.
Wait,
So
what? Wait,
yeah,
what's
I do
shadow
like
banning?
all
I'm
the
sorry,
time.
not familiar.
Yeah, I know it sucks, but um, I only use that, but I don't. I do use hashtags sometimes. It's mostly just through like look. I get most of my feedback through just like messaging people personally. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool. So like, how many like okay, because like you have a ridiculous amount of followers. So like, how many like chats are you running like all the time? Do you ever get like social media exhausted?
Oh my gosh, that's so funny. I actually the funny thing is that for me now, this was not the case like a month ago, but for me now, if I'm on social media, I'm on it solely for work. So to post things, I'll
Yeah.
check a chat or two, but like I honestly don't really check my chats unless they're coming from like the general community. If it's from someone like, I don't know, I just don't really check my chats anymore because it gets really exhausting and then you have to go through like all of them sometimes, and like for my mental health it's just easier to create boundaries, but yeah, that's just for me.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. So like, I'm curious. So do you have to like segment time in your day? Like I'm doing Instagram 8 hours a day. Like, is it a full-time job?
It's
That's
definitely a full-time
crazy.
job. It's yeah, definitely. I worked a 9 to 5 before this. I was in IT and I worked like literally 9 to 5, and this honestly beats it. Like
I
I'm
believe
on
that.
it's it's just it's sometimes very overwhelming, and then I have to have like my partner be like, wait, you're on your phone way too much today, or like my phone telling me I have 11 minutes of time, like I need to, and then I'm just like, okay, I need to chill.
Oh, wait, so all right. So at what point when with your following did you start noticing like maybe like sponsorship coming to you or people trying to get like pay you to post about certain things? Like how many followers? What was that breaking point for you?
I really honestly don't know about I don't really know with the followers because honestly, so the traction for me happened around like right before API month. So April, like around April, because it happened so suddenly. I
Yeah.
had 20,000 followers, and then in like April, I reached like 60,000 in one day, basically. Like that's the growth. I went from 20,000 to like 60 to like 90. Like, so, and it was again like very weird experience for me mentally. But then around May, during API month, a lot of companies were reaching out to me and they were saying like, oh, we want you to do this talk thing. We want you to blah, blah, blah. We want to send you these products and take pictures with X, Y, and Z. And I didn't know what the hell that was at all. I was just like, what is this? Because I was actually spending my time looking for a 9 to 5 job. And so I was just like, what? And then I talked to someone who was in the influencing community, and he said that, like this is influencer work and you can charge for this. And I, at the time, said, you know what? I really need rent to pay. I'm running low on unemployment. Like that was my current situation in April. And so I said, you know what? I'm going to do X, Y, and Z, but you have to pay me. And then I think that is what kind of led me into the influencer space, because it was just very smooth for me. But I know for like other influencers, they come in trying to get into the space,
Yeah. And then it's not authentic anymore. Like there's something very authentic about your page, and like I'll joke around with like my friends because like I still like Kanye, like Kanye West, and this is because like in this world like that media has built up where everyone is always acting at their best and at their highest perfection. When you see that authenticity and that genuine behavior, it's so much more rewarding.
Yeah.
How do you manage to like keep a little bit of like that authentic self out there? Are there like some rules like you're willing to just be like overpasses like no, this isn't gonna be something that I'm gonna overlook on my page. I'm just gonna address this or
Yeah, I think for me, I think for me, it's just because when I was growing up, I'm an only child, so like I didn't have people that I could just like speak to about my feelings and stuff. I didn't really have a lot of friends growing up that I really related to when it came to mental health. And so for this platform that I had, I just like, when the Asian stuff started happening in February and I was accumulating that massive following, I actually cut off all my friends from college, all of them, because all my friends were Asian, and I felt like you're not speaking out, or just like I had like a lot of realizations about the people I had in my life this year and last year, and then I realized like in May or April I had no friends. Because I had so many people for my life because I just was so angry and so mad. And so what I did was just try to find a community via Bless, try to find a community via Instagram. So I would post stories, and then I think now it's just like I don't really give a fuck. I'm just like, this is who I am. If you meet me, this is who I am. If you see me on stories, that's the same person. So
uh-huh. Oh, so I know you're talking a little bit before about like kind of like your next steps of what you want to approach with your work would be the mental health issues. And so I'm curious, like any ones in particular, like anxiety, depression, or is there or ADHD? Yeah, I'm an ADD kid. All about it. Oh yeah. I'm sorry, I don't know what to swear.
all good.
Wait, no, but tell us a little bit about like the kinds of disorders you're gonna go over.
Oh yeah, for sure. So I talk a lot about just anxiety and depression, because those are things I'm affected with. Um, eventually, I really just want to do a lot more research on how mental health affects like other communities, especially like low income communities, how it affects people who aren't able to get mental health help. And something that I've been really passionate about, even before the Instagram, even like in college, I've always like been really upset about the fact that, like our country really doesn't put a lot of focus on mental health. And so I wanted to just use my platform to bring more attention to that if possible. I'm not a licensed therapist. I'm not a licensed counselor. So eventually I want to bring people who are licensed to, medically know the name for it, like therapists or like people who are able to come on to my page and eventually like do lives to inform us. I don't know if any of that made sense.
No, it makes perfect sense. And then, so you're just like gonna like open up a platform for people to speak on things that you think are very important, need to be addressed. Is there any sort of issues you think you're gonna tackle first versus what you might go into later?
I think right now I'm just going to focus a lot on the anxiety and depression part, because even for me, I'm still learning about my anxiety. I learned something new in therapy yesterday that I didn't know I was doing. And I feel like because like I feel like just for me as an Asian American, I've never focused on mental health ever in my life.
Yeah,
So for
it's true. It's not valued in the culture as much, I feel like.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I'm speaking from like a Filipino standpoint. It was never valued for me, so I never felt seen in that space. I've always gotten like yelled at if I wasn't feeling well, like at home. So for me now, I'm just like, how can there are other people who have to be going through this, just not just me. So trying to like take licensed professionals in the future to speak on it and probably like hopefully make other people feel seen.
And I
Yeah.
think this is so important with like a potential second pandemic coming up and
Yeah.
like people having to be shut in again if that it gets to that degree. So I
Yeah.
think that's going to be super important coming up. And then especially like I remember when during like the last lockdown and all this media coming about just like about Asian hate and like I couldn't even like go on any single device just because like it would just well up a bunch of emotions and I had like nowhere to output it and like yeah it's such a hard path to navigate and I think it's going to be so important to have that community to build
Yeah.
people up during that time.
No, true. And that it was definitely like a lot. It was a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, so I know you're also, in addition to this, you want to talk about like some a bit more like queer LGBTQ issues. And so, is there anything like you want to pursue more out of others, or what kind of sorts of nuances in that community do you want to pursue?
Yeah, I think so for me, I've been coming out privately, like in my offline space. I've just been like actually like completely alone. I wasn't telling my partner, I wasn't telling other people because I really wanted it to be like a personal journey. And then eventually, like after X amount of time, I felt, you know what, like it feels very inauthentic for me to be queer in my offline life and not bring that experience to my online life because there are things that I now feel like, I'm thinking about now as a queer person who is, openly queer, that I feel like needs to be like attention needs to be brought to these issues, in your online life. And that includes like not feeling comfortable sharing that with friends or family. For example, like I'm never coming out to my family. I just feel the safest that way. And I feel like that's okay. And I also don't see a lot of, maybe this is just my ignorance, but I feel like I would love a lot more if, people spoke on that or just like coming out as an Asian American immigrant, especially coming from such a religious background where being queer is absolutely like not a thing at all. And I also grew up extremely religious. Like, so things like that who make up who I am now. I'd love to talk more about that. And then, like, obviously, with all the things I talk about, I always back it with research. So, yeah.
I love that you go back to research. It's so refreshing to hear. I don't know. I just think it's so important not only to like do the research, but like as you do it, where you like almost do a focus group, you reach out to the community, you
Yeah.
validate that research through them. Like so you do your so not only like because there's like a lot of different ways I know people approach things, and like one is that like sometimes people will approach it and say like I did a bunch of research and now I'm going to come out and say it and then they don't confront the community or some people don't do any research and they go to the community it's like can you tell me all about this and so it's like it's not their job to educate you and so I love that your approach is like doing a combination of both which I think is so important.
Yeah. For sure.
Oh yeah. And then so I'm a little bit curious wait let me go back to my questions. All right, so like out of all your identifiers, we found a lot of different sections of you that you identify with, and so I'm curious: are there any that you gravitate more towards more often, like being Filipino, being Chinese, first generation, or queer, or
Yeah, for sure. For me, it's being definitely a Filipino immigrant, first and foremost. I actually have no, like, so I'm also Chinese, but I have absolutely no connection to my Chinese side whatsoever. It's actually very interesting as to why. It's because, like, my grandpa, he was full Chinese, 100% Chinese, but he immigrated to the Philippines and he actually had to lose his last name, which was at the time Low. He lost his last name because something happened in the Philippines. I think they were like taxing people at the time who had like a Chinese last name or something. And then because of that, when he had my mom and like my other like her siblings, we completely lost our Chinese side. Like I don't know where my Chinese origins are, but I know for a fact that I'm Chinese, quarter Chinese, and I feel like that's just like something I don't even know if other people go through that. I would love to talk about it more in like my platform. But so that being said, I'm very, very close with my Filipino identity because I immigrated here. And I've seen like the immigrant experience. I've lived the immigrant experience. So yeah.
that's amazing. I love that story, and I think there are like definitely like a lot of platforms to talk about this, and maybe you're gonna open it up on one of your bestie chats. I bet you got some people. I bet you got some people, some stories there. How do people like go and like follow your content? Like, what's a good way path for people to follow to
Yeah,
become?
sure. So for me, I only have an Instagram. I other pages if you like, but I'm just really on
Oh,
Instagram.
sorry, you broke up
And
a little bit.
oh,
So the last part I heard at least was that you only use Instagram.
okay, yeah. So I only use Instagram, and it's at Kim Saira. But yeah, eventually, so I'm actually in the works of making a YouTube channel and like putting out a first YouTube video soon. So that would be cool.
Nice. I'm excited about that. Wait, so tell us a little bit, or is it a secret? Are we not allowed to know
Oh,
yet?
no, yeah, no, the YouTube is just like a way to like for me to explain more, just like a just like a vlog type thing about like who I am, offline, just like very much vloggy stuff because I realized something because I moved to California after college in 2019 and it was literally right before the pandemic. I moved here and when I moved here, I had like no money in my pocket. Like I was living off of like tax refunds from like past jobs. And I remember being in these moments in 2019 when I first moved here, being like, man, like I need to record what's happening, like so I can look back on this and be like, wow, like that was me in 2019. We were, like this is what I had to go through. And so now in 2021, I'm like, man, I wish I had something to look back on. So I'm gonna just start like a vlogging YouTube. It's mainly for me, but I'm gonna share it on just my adventures and like my experiences and yeah.
Do you have a little list of items you want to hit up?
Yeah, I think for now I'm just explain like, my first video has to do with like what I've been doing to cope with, social media fatigue because I've been feeling a lot of that and then eventually like things I've been learning from my therapist. And then like a lot of like probably like angry rants about, why is therapy a privilege when it shouldn't be? 20-minute rant.
Oh, oh. So I have a burning question. Sorry, this is a little bit off topic because I'm
Yeah.
ADD. But like, so have you ever considered going into TikTok? Is that something you're gonna pursue?
Oh my god, okay, wait. So I do have a TikTok. The
Yeah.
reason why I don't talk, it's like basically like a dump for me. Like I love TikTok. I to TikTok, but comments that I have
Oh
gotten
wait,
in the
it broke up
past.
again. I'm sorry.
Oh, how is it good now?
Yeah, yeah, you're good now. I apologize.
No, it's all good.
One more
Yeah,
time, again.
no, it's all good.
Oh, your
I
TikTok.
love TikTok. TikTok is great to look at, but then like the comments are so mean. They're so mean for me at least. Like when I was coming out with like the James Corden thing that happened a few months ago, I like called out his entire show for being like extremely racist. Foods.
Yeah.
I was putting that on TikTok to gain, like maybe sign my petition. So much hate for like 2 months, like death threats on TikTok.
I
And
wonder if that's like just like the more immature audience because it is a younger audience that uses it and they don't know like that online sort of
yeah,
respect level yet, maybe.
I think it is definitely
I
the
never
online
considered that.
audience. It's definitely that, but I also feel like, the algorithm doesn't do much to like protect BIPOC creators or just like activists. I've noticed that with other creators as well. So for me, I just probably don't feel safe on TikTok doing the content that I do make. So yeah.
That's fair. That's fair. Oh, I
Yeah.
never even considered that. I always, yeah, that does make sense. It's just like made for like videos and like dancing.
Dancing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
great platform for dancing or like short
Yeah.
skits. But yeah, I never considered that it like wouldn't be. Yeah, it's like a brosphere.
Yeah.
That's interesting. So do you think like Instagram's better for that kind of content, or do you think like maybe YouTube would be even more successful?
Yeah, I feel like Instagram is also kind of shady at the same time. Like I get shadow banned once a month. Like I get shadow banned a lot. A lot of like
Wait,
I
what is
laugh.
shadow banning? Sorry, I'm unfamiliar with it.
Like,
Yeah.
when Instagram like deliberately like hides your post from being seen to the audiences, so like people can't really search you. Like it's just harder for people to see your content.
Mhm.
Um, So it happens a lot to activists, like activists who are creating posts, or it happens a lot to just BIPOC creators. It happens a lot to queer people. Just like, yeah, it's really
Oh,
shady.
wow.
It's very common actually. There's a person called Ashley Marie Preston, who has been calling it out on Instagram, and it's a thing. So when it comes to some content, I don't feel comfortable sharing on there. I feel more comfortable sharing my raw life on YouTube.
Yeah.
I feel like YouTube is just like the best, you know. Yeah.
Has this been going on for a long time, or is this just something that's like kind of been like post-election?
Oh no, this has been happening for years.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay, sorry.
No, it's all good because people don't know about it. I feel like
Mhm.
the general public doesn't know about it, but when you're in like, you know, spaces where people like, you know, activist spaces or just like social justice spaces, it's always like a topic of contingency of like, oh, will this post get me shadow banned? Or how can I like, sometimes when I type like, for example,
Yeah.
white person, I'll literally put WHYTE instead of white because whenever I put white, like person,
Yeah.
I for some reason my post doesn't get on the explore page. Like it
That's
happens all the time.
interesting. That's
Yeah.
real interesting.
Yeah.
Oh. Oh, no, that's but oh, blah, blah, blah. All
Yeah.
right, I can't get into that right now. Sorry.
All good.
Wait. So, are there any other like kind of like hashtags like that like automatically like flag?
So the way that you can check is that when you're putting in a hashtag on a post, like when you're commenting a hashtag, if it doesn't say like, so it'll say, for example, like if I put hashtag Kim Saira, right underneath it, it should say 100 posts, like there are 100 posts with Kim Saira. If it doesn't say 100 posts and it just says like Kim Saira and you're typing in that hashtag, then most likely that is a broken hashtag. You should not be using it because then Instagram will flag it down like you're using a broken hashtag. They're going to hide your post from the masses. So when you're making hashtags, always be sure that when you're typing it out, there's like, oh, 15.2 posts under this hashtag. If there's no number of posts, then that means it's most likely it's broken.
Oh, interesting. No, this is good content, girl. Oh my, teach me. Teach me how ways. I'm trying to get famous, motherfucker. I'm sorry, I keep swearing. I'm a bad moderator.
It's all good. It's all good. Oh my
Oh,
gosh.
wait, so all right. I feel like I'm getting off topic. We're supposed to be talking about art a little bit, aren't we? So I want to go back to black artist curation. So you just kind of like flipping through it, always on the search, or like how did that whole highlight reel start? Or is it just like people that come to you, people that meet you? Did you put out like a call to art or anything?
Oh no, I just feel like last year during like the Black Lives Matter, like in February, I noticed that a lot of like almost like the black square phenomenon. I noticed that a lot of people were just like making their own posts, but like they were like of like Black Lives Matter you know, content and information, and I just figured why like if you are a non-black person make this type of content when you can just follow black artists themselves and like uplift the actual black community rather than like you know, there was something that happened in the art community like a few months ago where it was discovered that a white woman was profiting off of like black issues through her artwork. And so like and I knew this person, and I was just like, this is ridiculous because we should be uplifting actual black artists, actual black community. So I figured, you know what, like I was following a lot of like black artists at the time. Why not just like save it and then encourage other people to follow it? And I've made it a highlight in case people are interested in checking out black artists.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Dude, that's awesome. I appreciate it. And it's also just a beautiful gallery to go through. I think it's like highlighting a lot of really good people. And so
I know, they're awesome.
I
Yeah.
was super stoked about that section. hmm I'm curious. So, like, what other sorts of designers are like inspiring you, like right now today? Do you
Yeah.
have anybody to watch? Like anybody, like, oh yeah, this person's coming up. Like, I
Oh
can
my
see
gosh.
it.
So for me, I really like Sarah Epperson. I like a lot of people know Sarah. Sarah's freaking great. Love her artwork. It's very political, but honestly, like very much like informative. There is an artist called Anxious Black Girl Comics. Her name is Ronide. She's a friend of. She's amazing.
I got excited.
So amazing. And I think also, Dev the Pineapple is also DEV the Pineapple. Devin is also really good. She's a Black artist as well, and very, very great. And then in terms of like Asian artists, you know what? I really like JOCE Kitty Llama. Kitty Llama. I think that's how you say it. Joss Kitty Llama. She makes a little bit of like a mix of artwork and then like a mix of just like informative like posts. And I really like just like the way that she creates her artwork, because she'll put things that have to do a lot with like Asian communities, or just like how we as Asians could be more, can advocate more for other communities. So I think those are the three right now. There's also like, wait, those are the three that I know right now, like by heart, their Instagrams, or four, I don't know.
Perfect. No, like it's just so good to like see like what you think is like gonna be up and coming, because you're an influencer and you're part of that platform too now. You get to kind of gonna get a vote. Like what's gonna be kind of like
interesting. That's really interesting.
It's true though. It's true. So I kind of want to hear like, oh, what's the next color? I'm like,
what's trending?
Do you have a favorite color you're gravitating towards these days? Like I've noticed personally like a lot of like peachy, navy blue, mint, beige.
Love that. I love that. I think for me, it's like honestly the same. I think it's just like very like not neutral, but like light pink, light blue, like yeah. Because for me at first it was like heavy gradients of like rainbow gradients.
Yeah.
And now it's like, let me just like be a little bit more, you know, finesse or whatever. Like I don't know. So like.
Is there any that you're kind of gravitating towards personally? Like, I'm really into that mauve color now.
Oh, colors?
Yeah, is there a color you find yourself gravitating towards lately?
Oh, it's always pink for some reason.
Yeah?
I don't know why. Yeah.
Like a magenta pink, like a fuchsia magenta pink, or like more like a salmon, or like.
I feel like it's like in between salmon and fuchsia. I don't know. What I do is like go on my Procreate, like my iPad Procreate, and I'll like go through like the range, like, and I'll be like, huh, that's nice. How do I make this lighter? Oh, put on like the, you know, like the soften filter or something, like the Gaussian blur or whatever, like, and then I'll put that like all the way, and I'll just be like, oh, I love that. Let's go with it.
Ooh. For the last little bit, I want to ask a couple quick fire questions just about like your technique. So like, do you do it on iPad or do you do it on computer?
iPad.
Design. iPad? What program do you use?
Procreate.
Procreate? And then so do you use anything afterwards? Like you create it first and then you put it through a photo editor, or just Procreate, everything Procreate?
Just Procreate.
Favorite font?
Right now it's Arial.
Yeah, dude, Arial's like a standard. Because also you can just like bend it so much. You can even tweak it to make it your own.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, but I'm personally a Helvetica girl. I don't know.
Oh! Both are beautiful. As well. Yeah.
Especially the Helvetica Nu, which is like, I don't know that part.
Yeah. Love that one.
Yeah. Ooh, and then so, do you use a tablet? Or do you, yeah, oh yeah, because you're on your iPad.
Oh, yeah.
You have like a pen. And then, so, I'm curious, how often do you draw? Like, do you do like sketches every day?
Yeah, I do like, I try to do a post every day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. So how do you get into your creative mode? Do you like do like a bunch of sketches every morning? You're like, okay, sketch, and that's what I'm gonna end up making my post later today? Or how do you like kind of carve that?
No, I definitely don't sketch every day. I would love to do that. What I do is like figure out like the content I want to make first, and then like see how like honestly for me the artistry almost comes second, because for me it's like about the post, and then it's like how can I make this the more accessible and readable for everyone else, and then that's when I'll like do the design. So yeah, and then right now I'm really into like the Twitter screenshots. Like I don't know why a lot of people resonate with that, and I'm just like, wait, but like this is totally against what I was doing before. But I noticed a lot of people really like the Twitter screenshots.
Are you talking about like when they have the two bubbles and you can kind of see the conversation that follows? Wait,
No,
no.
it's like a tweet, literally like a screenshot of a
I don't.
tweet.
Yeah. Oh, it's like a screenshot of the tweet, and then like maybe like a couple of the comments that followed it, so they get that whole conversation. Is that what
I
you're
don't
talking
even get the conversation. Sometimes what I'll do, because I don't have
about?
Twitter, but I have like I do have like a private Twitter that I only use to like make
Oh.
tweets, and then I'll screenshot it and I'll be like, oh, this is how I'll put it on like a graphic, and I'll use that as like my
Oh,
information.
that's interesting.
Yeah,
Oh man,
yeah.
it seems like a little bit inconvenient, but I guess if that's what people are gravitating towards, you can
I
find a
don't
way
know
to
why.
integrate that into your artwork.
Yeah, yeah.
Dude, that's cool. So like, is that like more of a new thing? Like, it's gonna. Do you predict it's gonna just keep going up, or do you think it's just like gonna kind of bell curve soon?
No, I definitely think that people really love it. Like I noticed a lot of other people do the Twitter thing and I'm like, do people really like this? Because it's not really like my style creatively. But I think people like it because it's very short. It's very like
Yeah.
succinct, it's very short. And it's also using like a format that they are familiar with on Twitter. So it's like very easy for them to read. So I think for now I'm gonna like try to keep doing it, even though I'm not personally a big fan, but
Yeah.
it helps with getting the information out. Yeah.
That's interesting. Do you like Twitter as a medium?
I
Do you
don't
use
even use Twitter. I really don't use Twitter.
I don't either. I don't know. I don't get it, but it is like, I guess like, do you think like it might have to do with like the fact that Twitter is more like politically like linked, or like kind of like more like newspaper linked, politically linked, that if it's like a Twitter screenshot that somehow it has more validity than if it's like a Facebook one?
Yeah, I don't know. I really have no idea because I heard that Twitter is like a shit show, honestly. I've heard that Twitter is like a wildfire. I have no idea.
I'm very confused about like it's kind of funny. I just like came back from living in Europe like for the past like 6 years, and so like all the social medias are just like different in every single country too. And so I'm like a little bit of an alien coming back into social media here. But
Wow.
yeah, I've been doing Snapchat and I've been doing Instagram. Those have been my jams. But do you
Yeah,
use Snapchat?
I don't use Snapchat. Like literally just Instagram.
Just Instagram. It's alright. You got your favorite. You know your audience and you know how to get the right people. So that's all that matters.
Oh my god.
So I'm curious. So how can our audience today engage in your content? So like they could follow you at Saira, and then from there you have links in your bio that will take them to be your bestie or their close
Oh,
bestie.
like the Patreon, yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah, so for me it's just Kim Saira Instagram, and then when I have like the YouTube, because I'm really today, so like
Oh,
it's
one more
under
time. You broke up a little bit. I'm sorry.
No, it's good. Okay.
It's important. I want to make sure everybody hears this.
Is it good now?
Yeah, it's good.
Cool. Yeah. So for me, it's at Kim Saira, and then I'm actually filming my first YouTube today. So like eventually, if you follow the page, you'll know when the YouTube is gonna come out. And yeah, I do have a Patreon where you can pay for like to be part of like a community where like because I don't really answer DMs on Instagram because it's a lot for me sometimes. But if you are on my Patreon and you ever need like content advice. I give a lot of content advice. Like these are the algorithms that are working for me, and like I've noticed that there were all like things like that, or just like mental health stuff that I'm going through that I don't post on Instagram. That's how you can support me on Patreon. Also, supporting me on Patreon helps with just like my content creation because I'm freelance. I do this full time. So yeah.
Oh, well, I'm very excited for all the people who are going to join your community, follow up on you, keep tabs on you, follow you on Instagram, maybe follow your Twitter account too, somewhere buried. And then so just for audience, if you want to, we are having Remix is hosting a networking event later today. So feel free to drop by, check out the schedule. I'll be hosting it, so you'll get to. It's only free chat time. It'll just be it'll be a ball. So we'll see you. Hope you all have a great rest of your day. Enjoy all the rest of the amazing people that are contributing to this MAM Fest.
Yay.
All right.